Hi, everybody. I hope you're all doing well and find yourself in high spirits. Today, I want to talk about my experience on YouTube in relation to a comment I saw on a video. So, the comment was to a content creator who was talking about, making a difference for the raza, taking us to the next level, etc. And someone said, "Do you really expect to make a difference with these people?" And he was talking about his subscribers who are by and large people cheering the raza, saying, Viva la raza, la cultura, let's make it happen, let's do it. And this person said, are these the people you're expecting to make a difference with? And I thought, when those folks, those creators have tried to do something good, the views aren't there. Those people aren't interested. When I came on YouTube, I was trying to find my voice, and my voice was to help others find their voice. That's what I wanted to do, to educate them about the systemic racism that is deeply embedded in our government and largely invisible to most people. And my experience has been that it's mostly fallen on deaf ears. Most people don't care. And that reminded me of, a guy I met who gave me a tour of his community. He was Filipino, and he was giving me a tour of Little Manila and Stockton. Sadly, the tour was only 1 block long. The community was a freeway went through it, because when freeways were put in, they went through black and brown communities as much as they could to spare other communities from any disruptions. Developers started taking properties there, and they would sue and win the lawsuit, and the judge's order would get ignored, and by the time that ignoring was addressed, the buildings were already gone, and they weren't able to rebuild them. And he also shared the story of how they came here after the Filipino War. They weren't allowed to marry white women. They could marry black women and Mexican women and other Asian women. They weren't allowed to own property. In Stockton specifically, this Portuguese businessman recognized the injustices they were facing and let them use his address. And then he created like a P.O. box system for them, and that allowed them to write back home and communicate with their families and help and establish a connection, right? And he says, I get so frustrated when people talk about it's an accomplishment that ethnic studies are being taught at the school. Because when people talk about ethnic studies, they're always talking about the hats we wear, the foods we eat, the costumes we wear. And it's looked at as a curiosity. It's shallow. And to leave it at that, because those are beautiful things. I appreciate them. I share videos about foods we eat that I've enjoyed, and things of that nature. I think that's important. But if you only leave it at that, you're leaving out a very important component, and that is how people of color have been historically oppressed since, like, I guess even the beginning of time. That is part of ethnic studies. And I see things today that can be traced back to redlining. I see redlining happening today, even by agencies and government people who are selling you a program to address the past injustice of redlining. And they'll redline a community in doing that so they can spend those millions on a wealthier community. It still happens. And when I bring this up, it always seems to fall on deaf ears. No one cares. I don't know if it's beyond their their ability to dedicate time to the issues or what have you, but I've not seen an interest. Bless Javier, he did allow me to come on the show one time. I brought a guest, John, and we talked about environmental justice. And so he was supportive of that. And, I'm really grateful for that. But, and I would add that there's also other channels that I think don't agree with me on it. Um, but I see them do things that no one else does for the community. And I think um, it is being courageous on his part and trying to make a genuine difference. Cholo Trucker. And again, on systemic racism, I don't think we agree at all. Um, but because he's in a lane that I'm not, and I do see a huge value to what he's doing, we don't have to agree on systemic racism. I value what he does. In certain places, when if he doesn't agree with systemic racism, says it doesn't exist. Well, obviously I don't value that, but we can agree to disagree. But by and large, I didn't see an interest in people wanting to really learn how to advocate beyond sticking to this is what we wore, Viva la Raza, I'm brown, I'm proud, I'm brown, I'm proud. And it kind of just ends there, this expectation that you have to empower me to do something when really everyone can just empower themselves if they wanted to, I think. And so when I saw that comment to the content creator, you really expect to make a difference with these people? It hit me because I thought, I met awesome people and I'm sure they're great people. Um, but I think they're on YouTube to be entertained, to pass the time, to feel like a part of the raza. And that, in my experience, is where it has ended. And so I came to the conclusion that, me talking about this and, the ethnic pride is actually challenging people's worldviews and how they see themselves. And I thought a lot of them don't want that challenged. I'm not going to force it down their throat. So I won't be there talking about it. I'll stick to my channel and talk about these things. And if someone hears the message and they value it, they can watch the video and just speak up for themselves. They don't have to say I'm the one that would do it for them. They can learn to do it for themselves. And so that has been roughly my experience. I've met some great people. I've had really good conversations. And I do see folks that I think fill my cup with love for the human spirit and humanity. But it is, I think, a rare thing. I I think that there's a lot of complacency in just celebrating the decorations of the culture and a laziness and not taking the time to learn how communities of color across the world have been oppressed, how that works, how it's still happening. And I'm going to end because I don't want to get sidetracked too much now. And I'll just say this, which is kind of off point, but I was really like tripped out to learn that Japan has indigenous people. And the indigenous people from Japan look like the indigenous people from the Americas. And a lot of the same oppression and racism that, the indigenous people of the Americas experienced, they also experienced. And, You know, when you do ethnic studies, you can always look. Oh, you know, Mexicans wore sombreros, and before that they wore feathers, and they like beans and corn, and maize is common to the things, and yeah, viva la raza, we like corn and sombreros, and but you got to learn about, you know, Barrio Logan and the Yonkes. You got to learn about Dodger Stadium. You got to learn about the Exide battery plant in East Los. You got to learn about, you know, the 3 incinerators that went into brown communities. I think Long Beach, Modesto, and I'm not sure where the other one's at. You got to learn about the dumping near Indian reservations of highly hazardous and toxic materials. You know, you got to learn about how even the wealthiest black folks in LA couldn't live in Beverly Hills because they just weren't allowed there. So a lot of them built up Baldwin Hills, which are huge, beautiful mansions, all black folks. But it's surrounded by pump jacks and oil fields. So even with the money, they had to live next to pollution. And that is part of your culture. That's part of your ethnic studies. And I didn't see an interest. And that was sad to me. And when I saw that comment, do you really expect to make a difference with these people? It hit me hard because I thought, you know, I did. And I think part of the blinders is the same folks that didn't express an interest were the same ones saying, you know, look, all the black folks got the representation. We don't have anything. We don't have anything. No one's looking out for us. And the truth was that at least in their city, unless you live like in Compton or Oakland or something, and most of these folks didn't. Most of these folks lived in Los Angeles that I was hearing this from, and, you know, major Latino urban areas that were saying this. And the truth is, their city councils, their board of supervisors, their school board members, they look like them. They're just not plugged in. They don't know. Because it's easier to be on YouTube screaming Viva la Raza, Brown Pride, instead of seeing what those other people are doing. You know, I've interviewed people who've loved their people, love their gente, live in marginalized, highly concentrated ethnic enclaves, you know, 95% monolingual folks, meaning they only speak one language, and it's not English. And these folks fight for them, and they get them parks, and they get pollution kicked out of their neighborhood and replaced with, you know, maybe a plaza or Chicano Park, you know. No more Yonkes. All the pollution was being concentrated there, see? And that's part of your ethnic studies that I think people ignore. So I won't say I've given up, because I keep talking about it, and I'm even talking about it right now. But I did come away recognizing the lift to help would be a lot heavier than I thought. I thought that ethnic pride would translate into action to defend and protect their people. And I didn't see that. And, you know, for me, I'm not on that. I speak up for, you know, Blood neighborhoods, Crip neighborhoods, Sureño neighborhoods, Norteño neighborhoods, you know, white neighborhoods in South Sac who are being disfavored because they're poor, you know, in favor of wealthier ones. That doesn't matter to me. But what everybody has in common is that they get marginalized, and the people marginalizing them often look like them. So that's your ethnic studies for today. I hope you guys have a good one. Much love.